Good morning, everybody. Welcome once again to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. And yes, we are back in studio from the U.S. Open. And yes, I have the champion to my right. And we're going to get into that, Matthew.
The AAA. Let's not get carried away here, Mark. I was in the back of the boat. Bub Tosh is the U.S. Open champion.
That's right. We're gonna talk about obviously a bunch of stuff that went down at the U.S. Open. But Matthew, we've been gone for a week, and all kinds of things taking place in the world of bass fishing.
Did you find that over your coverage? And obviously, we're talking about the 36th annual WON Bass U.S. Open that took place on Lake Mead for the past 7 years. You and Dave have provided the Costa live coverage with live streaming of the weigh-in, post-game show, on the water coverage. But did you find during that week out there in the desert that you kind of got a little bit detached from the daily happenings with the FLW, BASS, and MLF? What would you call it, a debacle that is going on right now in the industry as who's going where and what's going what and the rumors? I lost touch for a couple of days,
You
Mark.
were fishing. I mean, yes, I was working, and yes, Dave and I were doing everything that we had to do to secure the live stream for WON Bass, both at the weigh-in and then the show that we did during the day. But yeah, dude, every time you go out there, you just kind of get removed from a lot of stuff that's going on, not only in the bass fishing world, but it's like you're in this little confined area and you're only dealing with what is directly in front of you, and you don't realize all this other stuff that's taking place in the outside world. So yeah, when I got back, and I had a football game actually that night, but the next day I kind of took some time to catch up and read some things and look at some guys' social media, of which I never do, but it seems that's the best way to get caught up on a lot of the stuff going on. And I don't want to say bizarre, but just some very unique situations have taken place over the past week, of which you had guys leave, or a guy leave, and then you had guys come in to Major League Fishing.
And you had some Elite Series guys. One more thing that I want to touch on before that U.S. Open talk gets passed. Did you notice, 95% of those guys are California, Arizona. A lot of serious tournament anglers. A lot of them fish the Wild West, all the WON Bass stuff out there, the Opens.
Yeah.
Really didn't seem to care that much. It was not the dominant conversation of the week, would you say? Between all those guys that are out there on the West Coast and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you talk about back east and everything that we're in. I mean, it's like the biggest thing that's happening.
But that's the uniqueness of that event.
Right.
All right. Is everybody's out there to fish the U.S. Open, and the focus is entirely on the U.S. Open. So
yeah. Okay. Where do you want to go from here?
Well, here I need to do a couple things real quick. I want to let everybody know that I'm going to announce the iTunes winners on Thursday. Okay, we had that little promotional deal that we ran. So I'm going to give $300 of tackle to somebody, and then $200 to a loyal listener on the iTunes podcast. So we'll take care of that on Wednesday. The second thing is I want to mention this. I am working in it right now. I would say it's about 80%. We're trying to get her schedule worked out because she lives on the West Coast. I got absolutely bombarded with emails when this story that appeared about Major League Fishing in the New York Times, because I had made a point of saying, hey, if anybody out there sees anything from a national perspective, let me know. Matthew, I got just totally inundated with emails.
As did our inbox for Bass Talk Live on Facebook.
Yeah, I just really, really appreciate everybody sending us stuff and trying to spread the word about what we're trying to accomplish with this show. So I reached out for Haley Cohn Gilliland, the person that did the piece for the New York Times, and we are going to have her on, hopefully, about an 80% shot. It's her schedule. I mean, it's going to be 6:45 in the morning out on the West Coast because she lives on the West Coast. But I want to get her take because, yes, she does have kind of a bass connection, knowing some people, and has done some stuff in the bass fishing world. But how the story came about, why she did the story, how she got the piece to be picked up by the New York Times because she doesn't work for the New York Times. She's a freelancer. So she penned the piece, and the Times picked it up, I guess based upon the relationship that she has with the New York Times. She's done some fabulous stories, totally removed from the bass fishing world. So I am thoroughly intrigued by, number one, why did she do this story? And number two, why did the New York Times pick up the piece? So we're going to have her on and get her take.
Actually got to meet and talk with her for a while at Waddington. This was before all the news of MLF Bass Pro Tour had broken, and she was working on a story for the Elite Series. Spent 3 days out there, had a photographer out there with her too, and really put their homework in. Actually, probably did about 20 to 30 hours worth of interviews of these guys. Like, we'd be sitting there, the normal media guys, like JD, me, Dave, Joel, were sitting there, and she just would talk to these guys for 30, 45 minutes, really in depth. So I thought the article was actually very well written.
It was long.
Very good information.
Yeah,
right?
it was a long piece.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to, if you were able to secure that interview, I think that would be a big get.
So hopefully that is the plan right now. Like I said, I'd say it's about 80%. We're just trying to work out her schedule and make sure that she's good to go early West Coast time.
Can I tell a quick story about that?
Yeah.
Real quick?
Yeah.
So we're waiting there after Bertrand had won, right? And everyone's tearing down, and it's just me and Dave and Joel and JD's there, the media guys, and we're waiting to do our stuff with Bertrand, get his post interviews, Batesy caught him on, things like that, and everyone's kind of left. And she's waiting too because she wants Bertrand to be a part of the story because he won the tournament. And so we're waiting, and he's shooting photographs with Sego. And I don't know why, but this popped into my head. It'd been a long week. It'd been the end of the year mark. And she said, well, what are you guys all waiting for? And I just looked at her. I said, well, we're waiting for the champion's baptism. She goes, well, what's the champion's baptism? And I said, you see that blue porta potty that's right here? I said, that's the angler's porta potty. And I said, every time there's a first time Elite Series winner, as the media members, we lock him into it with the trophy and then push it over. And then he comes out and he never speaks about it again. It's a highly secret. I said, it's happened to Pollock. It's happened to Lucas.
And she took it?
And she goes, I need to go get my notepad. And she runs in there and comes out, and I tell the photographer, I said, it's a total joke, by the way. So she comes back out, and I said, no, can't talk about it. I said, they'll never speak about it. You can ask them. They'll never talk about it at all. But we put him in there and say, going from the outhouse to the penthouse, and that's how we get him in there. And then there was a broken zip tie on the ground because they'd been tearing down all the sets. Joel picks it up, and he goes, yeah, this is the zip tie we use to lock him in the porta potty when we tip it over.
Oh, jeez.
So she waited around for 30 minutes afterwards for the champion's baptism.
Yeah.
Which never happened, obviously, because it's not a real thing, but we got a good chuckle out of it.
Yeah. So what happened when you told her? I'm assuming you told her.
Oh, no, we never told her. What happened was she went up to her car after she got done. We walked past, and I said, where were you? You missed it. And she goes, you missed it? Oh, we missed it. And I had the zip tie, and I handed it to her. I said, yeah, he was not happy. I said, there he is, idling across the lake right there. And she goes, unbelievable. She goes, so I'm having dinner with Brandon Pollock tonight. If I ask him, he'll tell me about it? I said, absolutely not. He'll act like he has no idea what you're talking about because it's that top secret. So when this piece came out, there was a chance we thought that might be included in it, which is one of the reasons why I read it so thoroughly.
Yeah.
Left out.
Okay, the list is very, very long, Matthew. Here's kind of what I'd like to do. One, I want to talk about the U.S. Open first. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about Bub Tosh and really your success that you had on Lake Mead. And then let's go to what is taking place as we speak, the bracket, and how the dynamic while we were gone began to migrate to, some guys are just not getting the coverage that they've gotten in the past. And we'll talk about that. And then obviously Jared Lintner gets it done with the Open victory on Table Rock Lake. And then wrap things up with some of the social media stuff that's been going on from an MLF standpoint.
It's been some wild stuff.
Yeah. And then the last thing I want to mention real quick, and I don't know how informed you are, or whether you've been following this, or I don't know. I just don't know because you've been kind of out of it for a week. But from a news perspective, a general news perspective, this Saudi Arabia thing that is taking place could have a dramatic effect, not just on the fishing industry, but the entire recreational boating industry.
Huh?
I knew you'd say that. You have no idea what the correlation
This
in that
isn't
is.
about the journalist, is it?
Yes.
It is about the journalist?
Oh, yeah.
The boat. Oh, oil
No duh.
and gas.
A huge effect.
Are you glad I put 2 and 2 together pretty quick?
It took you how many minutes, though?
No, it took me like 30 seconds.
Oh, geez. So, yeah, that I just want to mention a couple of things about that.
All right.
That is going to have
We're going to cover the
massive effect on the outdoor industry, recreational industry, if this thing doesn't get resolved fairly quick, too, because if Saudi Arabia decides to take action based upon the actions that the United States and other countries take, I mean, we're not only going to feel the pain from a recreational standpoint, we're going to feel the pain on a functionality standpoint on a daily basis. I mean, you could see gas skyrocket to $5 a gallon. Yeah. That's how serious it is. So
It's like I'm fishing the ramp for the next.
we'll get into that a little bit. So let's go ahead. Let's jump into the U.S. Open. And as far as Bub Tosh, the biggest thing that I got out of his victory, Matthew, is this shared weight format. We're going to talk about it. But on stage at the awards ceremony on Wednesday evening, he was very, very vocal, really at the forefront of saying, I do not win this event if my AAA does not catch a 4-pounder. Bottom line.
Did he fish with Thor Duesenberry?
I don't know.
I think he might have fished with
I don't remember
that was the
guy's
AAA's name, I think.
I don't
had the
know.
4-pounder.
But that is just the realization of what takes place in this event. And it's not taking away anything from his victory, but two things were definitely different about this year's U.S. Open. Probably the glaring was it was only 2 days. All right, the cancellation of day one definitely put a different spin on how certain guys attack. The second thing is he spent the majority of his time, and for those listeners that may not be familiar with this area, it his seeded victory numerous times, and that is the Vegas Wash area. And he spent on day two the vast majority of his time targeting and really patterning the fish after what had been taught to him over the years. And the whole key to it was the bait fish.
Explain to people what the Vegas Wash is, because I know going into it, I had something completely different in my head than what it actually looks like. How would you describe the Vegas Wash? It's a big area, massive.
It's huge. I mean, from a aesthetic standpoint, what it would compare to, it's kind of a derivative of Lake Amistad, but it's a huge body of water of which constantly bait fish, as a result of the stripers, are constantly moving in there.
Tons of fingers. It's not like it's not a
big bowl.
It's got
not a big
tons
bowl.
of fingers, rock deep, 25, 30 foot visibility.
Yeah.
In the lower basin on the right-hand side there.
Very, very fishy looking.
Very fishy.
All right. For Lake Mead. And if you haven't seen pictures of Lake Mead or if you've never been there.
You need to Google it.
Yeah, you need to check it out. All right. But John Murray has won a U.S. Open.
Is that where Velvic was?
That's where Velvic won.
Aaron?
Think so. Yeah. So a very, very productive area. So you have the Vegas Wash factor, the bait factor, and then the field reduced to fishing only 2 days. Mm-hmm. But hey, man, he's a U.S. Open champ. He won almost $140,000, and it was a good celebration. It wasn't like Johnny Johnson, but it was pretty good.
How cool was it that he was the kid at the bump tank growing up for the U.S. Open?
Yeah, been around it forever.
When's it? What did you say? He's 39, 38 years old now.
Paycheck.
So. Yeah, Paycheck Baits actually said he used a double fluke rig, the WON, and then like the Repo Man late payment.
Yeah, you can use an Alabama rig in those waters. You can only have 2 hooks on it,
which was really messing with my head because I never threw it, but I'm trying to figure out which 2 do I put hooks on.
Yeah. So you can only have 2 hooks on it.
Yeah.
All right. So Bub Tosh gets it done, reduced day, but still a very typical weight standpoint from winning.
2494.
We didn't have that massive bag of 15 or 16 or 18 pounds like we have in previous years. And I think, you tell me, Matt, but based upon the feedback that I got from a lot of really, really good anglers on that body of water, is they believe that the areas got pretty beat up during practice.
Yeah, that's the thing. You talk to a lot of the good anglers there, and they say there's not a ton of fish that live in the historic big fish areas. And the lake doesn't get a ton of pressure, I wouldn't imagine, outside of the major tournament. So they get up there, they eat the first couple of days of practice, and then they're done caught, and they don't get caught again. So one of the things I noticed in the top 20, you go back and I looked historically every single year of everyone, it's 99% West Coast guys that are in the top 20 in this thing. And this year was a little bit of a little variant from that. Obviously, you had Kurt Dove from Del Rio. You mentioned the Lake Amistad there. You had a good one last year. You finished in 4th. Kevin Short from Arkansas finished in 6th. You had Randy Blockett, who will reappear later in the show, who finished in 10th. You had Matt Stefan from Wisconsin, who finished in 15th. You had Steve Kennedy from Alabama in 14th, and then Brad Hallman from Oklahoma in 19th. So talk about a diverse group in the top 20. And, but the top three guys were all California guys with Tosh, Salvucci, and Borofsky.
All right, I want to mention this. We actually talked about it on the day 2 show that we did during the day while Dan O'Sullivan was out on the water. Look, folks, Billy Egan made 100% the right decision canceling day 1. The vast majority of people that I spoke with, 100% of those people said, yes, he made the right decision. There were some comments made by a minority of anglers, very, very few, that were pissed off and said, nope, we should have fished. Folks, let me tell you something. All right. In the grand scheme of things, this is not truly a professional event. It may have professional characteristics, but you have the vast majority of the field are not experienced at handling 6 and 7 footers. They're just not. All right. And I'm not taking away anything from the ability to catch fish that these guys on the West Coast have. It's just you had anglers out there in aluminum boats, small aluminum boats. You had anglers out there that were in a boat for the very first time, Matthew. Some of these guys, this was the first bass tournament they had ever fished as a boater.
Hell of a tournament to pick.
Exactly. And you send those guys out there in 6 and 7 footers with 30 to 40 mile an hour winds out of the north, and it is a recipe for disaster.
Plus, there was a small craft advisory till 8 p.m. on Monday night. There were whitecaps at the Boulder Station pool.
Yes, there were.
And
all right.
It's not a very big pool.
Yes, there were. So for those people that are deemed seasoned experts and professionals, okay, I get it. But what you have to look at the entire field and make a decision that is based upon the entire safety of all 224 guys that went out there.
Everyone I was around on day 1, I was sitting in a truck with Salvucci, Ken Ma, number of guys who have done this for over a decade in the U.S. Open. They were pissed we even had to come to the ramp. They were like, this should have just been called last night.
There was some discussion to do that, but it's one of those situations.
And I think this is the first time a day's been canceled in 36 years.
Due to weather.
No, 100% right call there. I mean.
All right, we're going to move on now to you, Matthew. All right, and the very first question that I have, a number of people on the instant feedback want to know, how does a guy that has never been on the lake before go out and win the AAA?
You get good draws. That's what it comes down to. So I went there with Brad Hallman. And just to clarify, it is a combined weight tournament. So I basically had 2 days of 2 different team partners. So I was teamed up with Nick Salvucci on day 1. Everything I caught counted for his weight. Everything he caught counted for my weight. Matt Schur on day 2 the same way. Then you take the 2 combined weights. I happen to be the only co-angler who had 10 pounds each day. at least hit double digits each day and won by like half a pound.
Okay, that's the mathematics, but we want to know, how does a guy that has no clue...
Well, the first thing is I practiced with Brad Hallman for 2 days, and Brad had never been out there before. And it was just a matter of fact that Brad opted to fish his strengths, and I was lucky enough to kind of understand that, got a bunch of bites. And I did a lot of homework before I went, too. A big shout out to Josh Bertrand. I called him way before. I said, what do you
He's got a little history on that.
Yeah,
body.
I would like to get what as a boater do you want your guy chuck it out the back that I can catch a few fish on and contribute to the cause? Because I know these guys have a lot more in it than I do.
Right.
I just ride out there, get in the boat, and hopefully help them and not lose a big one and not cast into trees.
Right.
Well, not that there are any trees out there, but
salt cedars.
Yeah. So he hooked me up with a couple different things that I could chuck out the back and that I could throw. And then it turns out that the first day I ended up fishing basically like Lake Eufaula in the fall. Very comfortable
in
with
Oklahoma,
it.
not Alabama.
And it was stuff that I'd practiced with Brad Hallman with Salvucci, so I was very comfortable with there. Caught a couple big fish right off the bat, so that was just luck that I drew. I mean, I could have drawn one of those dudes in the aluminum boat, so it was his first tournament. So I was around a dude who had a top 5 in the U.S. Open before, who had also won the Wild West Bass tournament out there the September before and was a power fisherman. Then it worked out to where with the day canceled, my second day was Matt Shura. He's a lower basin Vegas wash type dude. So you're going a home run hitter with Salvucci, go big or go home.
Who happens to be Jared Lintner's team partner.
And does not get pumped up at all. I slapped him on the back after we caught a fish and he goes, "Whoa, easy there." And I said, "Dude, do you not get jacked up?" He goes, "No." He goes, "With Lintner and me," he goes, "there is no highs.
That's pretty low key.
There's only mellow and really low." He said, "Those are the two things that we do there. We don't do high."
Okay.
And then with Matt Shura, I had a dude who has spent hundreds of days and multiple top 20s out there at U.S. Opens, finesse guy.
Isn't he friends with Bertrand too?
Yeah, he knows everybody out there. He does a TV show with Johnny Johnson, and we had some really good analytical talks about sponsorships and about as far as like Patch Pirates and Jersey.
You had 2 enormous draws,
right? But I was able to back that up because a lot of the guys up that ran up to where I was fishing the first day didn't catch them that good on the second day. And a lot of the guys who were down where I fished the second day abandoned it because they needed a big bag to get back in it. So we had a lot of water to ourselves, and we worked really well together. And I think it's really key to hear Bub talk about it. And if you look at the standings of AAA guys who all finish in the top, or you look at the standings, a lot of those guys all had a big fish too. So I think it's important to incorporate your AAA guys into it. And I felt like I was team partners with those guys. I mean,
did it feel like a team tournament?
Oh, 100%. Numerous times he'd miss a fish and I'd be right in behind him, or I'd have a fish hooked up and he'd be casting in behind me, or vice versa. I mean, it was 100% team. And once they realized that I could kind of handle myself, they were comfortable letting me, get that shot because they figured I'd put it in the boat too.
All right, what was the arsenal? What did you use, bait-wise?
A number of different baits, Mark. A chatterbait, a small swim bait, a drop shot, and a Ned rig.
Really?
Yeah, it was kind of cool. Day 2, I was sitting there and I caught a couple, and he's explaining to me how he had caught his 8 pounds the day before, and I was like, well, that sounds like a Ned rig would be perfect. And I tied it on, in the first 3 casts I caught 3 keepers. He goes, "You ever gonna let me fish?" Now granted, we called him out later in the day, but it was nice. So that was it. I mean, it was straight power. I used 2 rods on the first day and had 6 rods that I never even touched, and on the second day I
spinning
used,
rods,
right, on 3 rods, and the rods that I caught all my fish on the first day I never even touched. Wow. So it was the exact opposite. I got the full U.S. Open experience. I got rough water, I got power fishing, I got big fish, I got
and you
clear
got the
water,
Station Casino,
I got striper, I got
and Thomas.
Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting. The cross-dressing former Toledo Bend angler at 4 a.m. who
caught a 6-pounder at Toledo Bend.
No, a 9.4.
Oh, a 9.4.
Folks, it was 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting ready for a day of practice. They go down to the Boulder Station Casino, which is not on the Strip, by the way. Let me point this out. It is way off. It's like $30 a night. No, it's not bad. It is what it is.
It's more than 30.
We both developed smokers' lungs and don't smoke. But I'm down there getting it, and I hear, "Hey, excuse me, can you help me out for a second?" And I'm getting my sandwich at 4 in the morning. I turn around, and there's this lady. But that's not a lady. It wasn't a lady. High heels, skirt, everything. We're talking 4 in the morning here. Said, "Hey, I got a $4 voucher. I'm down on my luck. I said, can I help pay for your meal because I can't cash it in, and then you give me $4 cash.
You took care of it.
She had to show her ID for that, and her name was Thomas, and she said, well, I said, getting 2 sandwiches, one for me and one for Hallman.
Yeah.
She said, awful hungry this morning. I said, that's for the boat. Oh, I like to fish too. I caught a 9-pound. I told Hallman, I said, how do you go from catching a 9-pounder on Toledo Bend 20 years ago to being a cross-dresser at the Boulder Station Casino at 4 a.m., cashing in your $4 voucher so you can get home? Very nice, though.
Not sure on that one. All right. So, very good draws. Mm-hmm. A wide variety of baits, lures used. Now, here's the big question. Is next year in play, if it works out with your schedule, to fish as a pro next year?
100%.
Going down as long as it works out with your schedule?
As long as my schedule works out, I will be there with a bass.
What is it, 1,500?
I think 1,600.
Huh.
It's a great experience. I cannot top the experience that I had on the AAA side.
You're going to the bank with $10,000.
I cannot top it. So I want to move over, and it was the first time I'd fished out of the back since I was 17, 18 years old. So
yeah, you didn't fish the
college
Nation.
Stuff is all team, and I never fished
the Nation when it was flipped.
No, because remember I got the little the year I graduated, I got the little Skeeter.
Yeah.
So
gotcha. All right, man. A couple people on the instant feedback. Andy in Indiana says, "Congrats, Matt. Make sure you save a little for your taxes." And then TJ wanted to know if I gave you a hug after your victory.
No, you gave me a $20 bill and told me to go buy a lotto ticket.
I gave you a high five and I said, "Great job, man." You remember I pulled you aside.
Got the luck. Made sure you got the luck factor in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. It was lucky. I drew 2 guys who caught him.
That's a big part of it.
I mean, you go down the list and there's probably 40 guys on there, 50 guys. I'd say 50 guys out of the 200 that I'd feel comfortable drawing.
Yeah.
And I drew 2.
2 hammers.
And I had no idea who my third day partner was and never ended up knowing who he was because we never had to fish with him.
All right, man, let's do this. Let's take a break, and then we will come back, talk a little Major League Fishing, talk about the bracket thing that's going on, and then talk about Mr. Lintner. Talk about his win at Table Rock. So...
And then some interesting social media posts.
Yeah. All right, everybody, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Sleek new design with easy control file. The clearest images underwater with uncompromising range. Live mapping from the touchscreen. View notifications, video, even Google Maps on screen. And for the first time ever, real-time view of fish movements with live sight sonar. HDS Live. New from Lowrance.
Jacob Wheeler and Tommy Biffle have a lot in common.
Flat bill.
The perfect shape.
You gotta love some light tackle.
I know I have a spinning rod.
I love my hammer crawl.
Biffle bug.
Rigged
on a hardhead.
Well, they could be twins. Bifflebug, hammer crawl, hardhead, from Gene LaRue.
Let me help you, man.
Let me help that hat.
Whoa.
There you go. I already looked better.
Pros depend on hydraulic jack plates to get the best out of their boats. Do what they do. Demand Atlas performance. Atlas gets you from the bottom to the top in less than 8 seconds, even with the big 4 strokes. And when you gotta turn right around and get that heavy load back up in rough water, Atlas's innovative design and American-made components will get you there with confidence.
I'm at Depot. Just look for yourself. There's an Atlas jack plate on just about every professional's boat.
The Atlas hydraulic jack plate. You can depend on it.
My rods look different because they are different. Every rod is built by the pros and for the pros. When you pick up a white Duffet fishing rod, you're getting a cutting-edge rod one that's truly pro-driven, with the actions you need for every bait category you fish. I put my name on it. It's my promise to build you a great rod you can count on.
Duck It Fishing, Micro Magic, Macro Magic, or White Ice.
Try them. They work.
Man, I am so excited to be joining the AFCO Pro staff. They got some really cool, innovative products to help you have a more enjoyable, comfortable day while you're out there on the water. Really stylish, great functional clothing. You're gonna love it. The thing I'm most excited about though is AFCO has pledged to donate 10% of their total profits back to supporting the conservation of our fisheries. And I am all about supporting a company that's about supporting conservation so that we can enjoy our bass fishing for a long time. Check us out, AFCO.
When I talk about SUNLINE, I think of one word: confidence.
SUNLINE FX2 is what I use for all of my frogging and flipping.
S61 braid, which braid plays a big part in fishing line.
Shooter, I'm going to use in those close quarter deals like flipping and pitching.
One of my favorite techniques in fishing the tournament trail is to fish offshore ledges.
We have taken the questions out of the equation.
Take my word for it. It works. It works, dude.
All right, we are back in studio, Mark and Matthew, after a week in beautiful Las Vegas. And we're going to get into some of the stuff that we missed while we were gone, Matt. And as we speak, the bracket challenge taking place, and with the changes that were made, the field now is 16, correct?
Yes.
And then they're going to eliminate 4, and then they're going to have 3 separate brackets.
They'll eliminate 4 and then seed them, I think, based on the standings.
1 through
12. So.
And then there's 3 brackets, and then there will be 3 classic bursts awarded based upon those 3 brackets.
Correct.
All right.
It's like a 4-day process.
They get a day off? Because, see, they fish today, then tomorrow. It's 3 days.
1, 2, 3. Okay.
Yeah, unless they get a day off.
Yeah, so there's 4 guys who go, I think, and just fish and then go home.
Now, the interesting thing about the bracket is out of the 16 guys, how many guys are bass guys?
Oh, yeah, I have that stat right here, Mark.
We went through it.
Keith Combs.
That would be 1.
Ray Hanselman Jr.
2.
Bill Lowen.
3.
Chad Pipkins.
4.
Scott Rook.
5.
Greg Vincent? Or is he MLF? Vincent might be. I think he's MLF too.
Huh.
1 second.
All right, so what they did is they went all the way down from, 40th to 56th place? Is that what they did?
Yeah, they ended up at 56, and I was really hoping they'd get to 57.
Because you know who finished in 57th? That would be Mr. Boyd Duckett, and that would have been very interesting to see the development on that. All right, so you have 16 guys.
Oh, Greg Vincent's MLF. Hold on. Let me...
so there's only 5.
Let me cross that one off the list there, Mark. So you've got Scott Rook, Chad Pipkins, Bill Lowen, Ray Hanselman, and Keith Combs.
So 4 out of the 5.
So that would explain why they started. The quad box featured Keith Combs, Ray Hanselman, Bill Lowen, and Chad Pipkins.
And there's all kinds of speculation on what Scott Rook is going to do. Is he coming back? Is he going to fish again? Is he going to retire? Who knows? We're still waiting to hear on what's going to happen.
So anyway, they've got a 5 out of 16 chance of having a dude in the Classic.
This is going to be the weirdest Classic I've ever been to.
Because, I mean, Lintner wins the Open Championship, and he's going to MLF. So that story's already buried on Bassmaster. And rightfully so. I mean, the guy's that good. Well, is it rightfully so? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, absolutely. You remember one of the questions that I asked Dave Preck when we had him on was, are we going to see a change in the way that the content is presented, both in the magazine and on the website, based upon the changes and the guys that are no longer fishing bass? And he kind of didn't skirt around it. He just more or less said, yeah.
So
what are we seeing, Matthew, on the Bassmaster website? Now, there's still some content out there on Major League Fishing Guys, but the vast majority of it, you look at the blogs, you look at everything else, it's not a Major League Fishing Guys.
Yeah, so far the guys who have opted to remain with bass are getting a lot of love. I mean, you see, there's a lot of stuff from Lester on there, and then you've got Matt Herron in studio, Kelly J in studio during the bracket that is going on as we speak.
Okay, real quick, I need to interrupt you because I just had an instant feedback from Derek that says, why isn't Hackney fishing this week? Is he not fishing the bracket? He qualified for it.
I don't know.
Maybe he made the decision. I don't know. I haven't watched it. I haven't really looked at it. I haven't seen anything on it. You might want to look into that, man.
I'll check into that after the show.
So maybe there's only going to be 3 guys that are eliminated and do not qualify for one of the 3 brackets that they have. Maybe he said, you know what? I'm a MLF guy. I'm not going to mess with it. I'm moving on down the road. Or maybe it was a family thing. Who knows? Maybe.
You don't think he would want one last shot to win the Classic? It's the only thing the guy hasn't won. Remember that?
I know. It's the only box unchecked.
Because he's won the MLF World Championship.
It is the only box. He is the only guy that has every box checked except the Classic.
Carter's Lake. Maybe he's there. They just haven't said anything about him.
Maybe it's a personal. Who knows? All right. You need to work on that. See what you can find out about that. So basically, you have 5 guys.
Yep.
All right. And then Lintner, obviously.
Yeah, Lintner wins with 37 pounds, 3 days, throwing a crankbait and a 3/4 ounce jig.
All right. Let me ask you this. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just part of the game. But do you think that one of his close friends got him dialed in on Table Rock?
McClelland?
Yeah.
I don't know what the rules are on that. As far as if McClelland isn't in it, could he give it to him before he had not qualified for it because they knew it would be on... Or what the rules are for the Opens?
Huh.
Or the Open Championships? I don't know what the off-limits are for the Open Championships. I know when I fished the Opens in 15, you could basically get information right up until the first official day of practice.
I don't know.
So, but he won on a Spro rock crawler, was one of them. That's an interesting bait, designed by
Mike McClelland.
Okay.
Mike McClelland.
But we also have 6 more Classic qualifiers through the Opens in the Central Division. You got Frank Talley, Brad Watley, and Derek Hudnall, and then Brandon Lester, Bobby Lane, and Garrett Paquette. And then we're still not exactly sure how they're going to do the Elite Series invitations.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's out there or not. I believe the top 15 in each division received an invitation to fish the Elite Series.
There's been some frustration, too. Is that a good word? Frustration with some of the past Elite Series anglers that have inquired, hey, we spent a lot of money with you.
And
is there any way that we can get back in here?
It's Tuesday. I've been trying to get caught up. We got a message for Bass Talk Live. You could see it on there. Brody the Lake came out. He said it was a throat punch that former Elite Series anglers, and he named them all off: Travis Manson, Paul Hurosky, Matt Svar.
Do they deserve to get that invite, Matthew?
I was one of the reasons I was calling you one of the times was I would like to get him on because I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't think they do. I don't think they do because if you're in the NFL and you're bringing new players in, do you go back and try to get retired players and players out of the league?
The Redskins did that with Adrian Peterson.
Or do you go to the CFL? Or do you go to the Arena League and bring those guys over? Because I don't care what you say. Yeah, you can look like you are in game shape. And I've had this conversation with a former Elite Series pro who is on that list. And he said, dude, if I got invited back, I would get my ass kicked. He goes, I haven't fished a multi-day tournament in 4 years. He goes, and it's not like I caught him anyway, because if I had, I would still be out there.
Yeah. You just nailed it. That is the biggest point right there.
Here's exactly what he said.
Multiple opportunities to qualify, and
he said, if I'm Bass,
to maintain your
he goes, if I'm Bass, hell yeah, I want Anthony Gagliardi over there instead of me.
Well.
Or Clark Wendlandt instead of me.
Can't have him.
Yeah, not Anthony Gagliardi.
Can't have Gags.
I meant to say Clark Wendlandt. Okay. But hell yeah, I'd take Clark Wendlandt every day twice instead of me.
Did Clark get an MLF invite? I wonder if he got an invite.
I don't know.
The dude's been on cornflakes, for crying out loud. And Wheaties and everything else.
You could have, yeah. But anyway, so that's kind of where I stand on that. on that, I think you got to take, and they didn't technically qualify, but you know what? You can qualify if you're fishing on the FLW Tour, you're fishing on a pro tour. That's a qualifying structure right there. Bass can do what they want. They can put in their rules that counts as a qualification if you're already on a parallel pro tour.
Yeah. All right, let's go. I'm going to throw a few names out at you.
Okay.
What's up with Scott Martin?
Okay, so this is interesting. I got to get on my phone here. So obviously the talk has been with Scott Martin. He comes out on his very popular YouTube channel over, I think, he's over 250,000 in subscribers, doing all sorts of crazy stuff there with Brandon, his cameraman and editor, and comes out with I'm fishing the FLW Tour, and then about midway through the decision actually mentions that's because I didn't get an MLF invite. So he's on the FLW Tour. Then, through my sources, I hear Scott Martin, possible Elite Series. Then I hear, no, now there's 2 spots available. Scott Martin was invited to MLF. But Scott Martin is still fishing the FLW Tour. So I was browsing the social media, and I came across a post, and I think it might have been the one where they announced Sprague and Gags going over to MLF.
Okay.
And this guy gets on there and he goes, why does MLF continue to drop the ball on Scott Martin? And I've not heard of anything official. I haven't heard of Bass saying we have invited Scott Martin. I have not heard of MLF saying we have invited Scott Martin. Scott Martin said he did not get an invite, and he was fishing the FLW.
You are correct.
But so this guy, Mark Reynolds, goes, why does MLF continue to drop the ball on Scott Martin? Major League Fishing replies with a little blue check mark by it, so it's not a fake account. It says, we don't know what you mean by, quote, drop the ball, as it was his decision not to fish with us. We wish him the best in 2019.
All right, stop right there. That insinuates that he did get an invite based upon that post. Agreed?
I think that pretty much states it clear as if you have a decision, that means you were invited,
so
right?
So what's going on?
What's going on is he's going to be fishing the FLW Tour next year. And I would like to, when all this settles down, talk to Scott, because obviously a massive part of his marketing and tournaments, I mean, every catch is on it. He's got the camera guys, the people he practices with and everything. Maybe that format is not friendly to fish that, and that is more valuable to him than fishing the Pro Bass Tour. Maybe he likes catching the 5 biggest instead of the most. Maybe it just made sense to him.
Sponsor endorsements.
That's what I'm saying for the YouTube side. I mean, he's bar none 1A over in all of professional fishing as far as the social media YouTube creation and content and kind of new stuff. So
all right, Brian Thrift.
I had heard he got an MLF invite too.
That's what I heard too.
And staying with the FLW.
Yeah. You think Bass is trying to make a run at him?
I'm
recruit him?
Sure he could have gone wherever he wanted to fish at the end. But the weird thing with him, and this has turned from show to just me and you talking, because we haven't had a chance to talk about this, is that he wasn't on the initial list.
He was the number 1 guy.
Right.
Which is weird. Has there really been an event take place? How do you go from being the number 1 guy on the Bass fan rankings to, what is he now, number 2 with no event, and all of a sudden Jacob Wheeler jumps up there? Look that up.
Because of the Angler of the Year Championship, bunch of 2, I think he got.
Is that what it was?
Yeah. Anyway, who's next?
Anthony Gagliardi.
He's going to MLF.
Making the move.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then you had mentioned his name several times on the show, Jeff Sprague.
Yeah, I did a story with him on Bass Zone. It's kind of a good read. Go back, kind of get his mentality for it. Dude, he was primed, ready to go kick some ass on the FLW Tour with a number of big names gone, and got the call. He got the call like getting ready for the Sealy Big Bass event that went down this weekend. Signed the NDA, looked over the stuff, and jumped. So he's the 80th guy right now.
JT Kenny.
This is a weird one, dude. This is twice now that MLF has come out with the field and then taken a very popular guy, like in the prime of his career, taking the rods out of his hand and put him in the analyst
Is he
booth.
still going to try and fish FLW, though?
I don't know. Have you looked at his posts online?
Yeah.
He said he was going to scoop ice cream, fish the Gator division, and be an analyst, an on-air analyst, and do the live stuff.
Yeah.
So he's not fishing. He's now an analyst for the live and for the MLF show. As far as I know, Marty Stone is still on board with what he's doing for the TV side and the analyst on that. And I'm sure, I believe that MLF does not have any restrictions on what else you can fish. They did not put that in their rules. So I would expect to see JT at the Gator divisions that don't overlap the MLF events that he's now covering.
All right, Gary Klaus.
Gary Klaus, a guy who is an MLF select, not on the initial 80 that were invited, then did get an invite, accepted the invite, then declined the invite, then accepted the invite to the Elite Series.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And owns Phoenix Boats.
Yeah. I don't know if we could ever get him on the show, but I would love to get him on the show.
What I think
about
you're
that
going to
whole
see
process.
in the next couple weeks here is a number of additional FLW tour anglers that are making the move to the Elite Series. Now, how they were invited, how that decision was made, I don't know, but I think there's 7 or 8 more to come.
I can see that.
Jeff
I'm not going to disagree
Gustafson,
with you on that.
he's on the Elite Series now. You got Wendlet. I think there's going to be some more. David Dudley, sticking with the FLW tour.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you look at the list at the list. They still got Thrift, Nixon, Scott Martin, David Dudley, Chad Grigsby, who won at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But I was going over the list of FLW tour pros that are fishing as of now. This is going to change. That are fishing, and had hypothetically been offered an Elite Series invite, and it looks like we're talking about the Bassman World Rankings, there's going to be like 7 in the top 100 that are left
on the FLW?
that are left on the FLW tour
Wow.
out of all of it. That's slim.
Wow. That is. All right, did we miss anything last week as far as a schedule or event location for Major League Fishing being announced?
No.
I mean, I
All we know
perused
is
their website.
Is what Duckett said on our show. The biggest tournament in history is going to take place at, I believe, at the end of January in Florida.
Yeah, Derek wants to know, how does that work with Gary being in and then being out and then being in back again when they have the 3-year contract situation? Well, it's simple. I mean, they had the option when they signed, they had the option to either put a hold or some type of language in there that says, hey, if I change my mind within a certain period of time,
And
I'm out.
If you want to wonder how does Gary Klaus end up on the Elite Series, well, he fished the Central Opens.
And they went down to...
And they invited the first 15 potentially qualified anglers. So if you got guys who are double qualified or already in, so he finished in 18th. And then you look above him and, there's a Stephen Browning, I don't know how he got on there, but he...
But he's on the list.
He's finished 18th, so there must have been. Oh, I think Patrick Walters was a double qualifier,
and they had to have some
Stephen
declines,
Browning was
maybe.
already on it.
That's how
and
he got
there's
in.
Gotta be
He
another
got
one, 15, 16, 17,
Yeah,
18.
he got in because of the
his
finish.
standing in the
Yes.
Central Opens.
That's how he got.
I'm
the
sure
invite.
I'm missing some double qualifier that gets from 15 to 18. We got it to 17. There's another one somewhere.
All right, the
there
last
for
thing I
18.
want to say on
my
this
ears are kind of red underneath.
Dude, we have all kinds of stuff to talk about while all this stuff is going on, but I am ready for it to be over.
Oh, it was so
I'm
nice
sorry.
going a week and not.
I'm just ready for these guys to start fishing and going, this is our field. FLW, announce your field. Bass, announce your field. Major League Fishing, announce your dates and locations. Let's go.
Major League Fishing did. It just rapidly changes. You got guys who are now becoming analysts, guys who have committed to other tours, and we skipped over the David Dudley part when he announced FLW. with what Randy Blockett posted.
Yeah, said that he was.
Yeah, so this was it. This was on one of the posts. I believe it was the one that that he was announcing that he was going to stay with the FLW.
He
tour.
was mad about canceling day one at the U.S. Open too.
Yeah, Kent Brown went after him pretty good on Ultimate Bass Radio too. And dude, I like Randy. When we had him on the show, I'd give it one of our top 5 interviews
but I think
for the
he's
year.
dead wrong on that.
So this is what he posted about someone who said that David Dudley was scared to fish bass, which is why he went to stayed with FLW. Which is total BS, but this might also be right up there with it. So Blockett replied, your post, the most ridiculous I've ever seen. David Dudley is one of the top 3 bass anglers who ever lived.
All right, stop right there. All right, I'm going to throw 3 names out there right off the top of the bat. Don't even have to think about it. KVD, Roland Martin, and Rick Clunt. That's 3 right there. I can keep going.
Throw a couple more out.
Aaron Martens.
He's got the Anglers of the Year.
Larry Nixon.
Yeah.
I mean, I can keep going.
Thrift above there.
Brian Thrift, maybe. I don't know what was the point that he was trying to make on that.
That he's damn good, and he ain't scared to fish bass.
Is anybody disagreeing that he is damn good? He is very, very, very good. But I don't think he's afraid of fishing bass. I think from a business standpoint, it is the fit for him based upon how he wants to represent.
Absolutely. And he's
David
been doing
Dudley
a lot
brand.
of the live streaming. It does. He's always never been afraid to beat to his own drum. But
I will never forget.
That was just the same.
Dude, 15 years ago when me and Gary did the weekly show on the local station here in Oklahoma, Gary Judici here in Oklahoma City, we had Dudley on, and right in the middle of the interview, he was raccoon hunting and got hung on a barbed wire fence. Clothes hung in a barbed wire fence. And he said,
hunting.
Yeah, I got to go.
I'm stuck in a fence.
Yep. And he left the interview like that.
He's always been a great interview, but
me and Gary just kind of looked at each other.
I talked to you about this before. You could make a case top 10.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what he's won.
Yeah.
Look at his earnings, and he's done
I'm
millions.
not disagree with that. Top 10, yeah, absolutely. He's won a ton of money.
But top 3?
No. Not even close.
Will he be a first ballot Hall of Famer when he turns 50?
Probably if the media and the other people that vote know what the hell they're doing. Yeah, absolutely, based upon his performance.
The best ones are not like the actual post, it's the comments under the post.
What were some of the comments? Do you remember?
No, that was one of the comments on
was?
him. That's like way down in a thread. The MLF thing was way down in a thread too.
Yeah. It is what it is, man.
What else we got?
I don't think he's
jumped all
top
over
3.
the map.
No,
here.
just real quick, I just want to touch on this because so many times people that are truly engaged in this industry and love to fish, and they're the weekend guys, the tournament fishing guys, the club guys. Folks, I'm telling you, this Saudi thing, if you haven't been paying attention to it, Matthew.
Okay, run it down for me.
It's simple, all right? There is a political mess taking place because of how supposedly the Saudis are covering up the way that this journalist, who was a U.S. citizen, right, was murdered, killed, beat up. There's so many stories out there right now. So there are actions that are being demanded to take as a result of this bizarre situation that is taking place with, did the Saudis have something to do with this guy's murder or missing or whatever? They haven't found the body yet. Okay? Everybody is screaming that think that the Saudis are hiding stuff and really trying to just throw this under the rug, are screaming sanctions. There's got to be some type of consequences taken because of the actions of the Saudi regime against this journalist. Dude, you take actions against Saudi Arabia, and I'm not a political expert, but there's only one other country in the world that produces more oil than Saudi Arabia. Do you know what that is?
Somewhere that touches Saudi Arabia.
No.
Us?
No. Russia.
Oh.
Okay.
Are you serious?
Yes.
There's I didn't know that.
Yeah. All right. But the vast majority of the imports and the cost structure of the way that oil is priced is so influenced by what is happening in that geographical area. Dude, if this thing gets out of control, we could be looking at $5 a gallon gas.
And that is how you go from Randy Blockett to David Dudley to Saudi Arabia in 3 minutes.
That's how we roll here at
Bass
BTL.
Fishing Podcast.
That's how we roll. All right, World Series starts tonight. Are you buying another lottery ticket for me tonight? 1.6 billion.
1 in 320 million?
Okay, I'm a numbers guy. You know I'm a numbers guy. I saw this and I can't remember where I saw it. I think it was the LA Times. If you bought $100 million worth of lottery tickets, your odds on winning would still be 1 in 3.1 million.
If you bought how many?
$100 million in the number combinations.
No, we're not buying one.
You could spend $100 million to win $1.6 billion. All right, it sounds okay, but how many people have $100 million out there sitting around to go down to the local, Lucky Strike liquor store and buy your lottery ticket?
I personally only know one.
It's not me. So, yes, you are going to buy $20 worth of lottery tickets just because. You can't win if you don't play. I'm willing to invest $20. And, dude, I'm telling you right now, if we win, we're set. I'm splitting it with you 50-50.
I got to go back to fishing. I wanted to bring this up in the show. I actually made a note in my phone to bring it up. I fished the Podunkers Bass Fishing League in Oklahoma. I got in through it through Andy and Michael Littlejohn. It is an MLF-style
it sounds cool.
tournament in Oklahoma.
Sounds very cool.
You actually have a score tracker app on your phone. They give you a score sheet, a pen, extra batteries. They give you a scale. You have a co-angler. He's fishing against other co-anglers. You pay $100. The way we did it was they drew the lake on Friday night, fished on Saturday. Total weight, everything over a pound counts. You weigh your fish. You say scale zeroed. Your co-angler goes zeroed. You click it on. You say 1 pound, 2 ounces. He goes, I agree. Dump it over the side. Dude, it totally changes the way the game is played, the way you fish. I still do not think that this topic, and I think we need to dedicate an entire show to it, it is like adding a 5-point line in basketball.
Yeah.
It is like making a field goal worth less and adding additional ways to score in football. It is like having a 2-pointer in hockey. It is completely going to change how guys fish, what they fish, where they fish, the decisions that they're made. And I had heard this. I had talked to the guys about it, but until I personally fished it and said, I can stay on this point right here and throw a rattle trap and catch 1-1s, or I can take that buzz bait and spend 3 hours and go to the backs and maybe catch 2 or 3 3-pounders. Screw it, I'm slinging the trap.
All
completely changed my day.
We'll talk about that on Thursday. I like that. All right. Haley Cone Gilliland on Thursday.
When will we know?
Hopefully today.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully today. And then also I'm working on one more guest, so we're going to try and get another guest lined up for Thursday. And then next Tuesday, man, the day is going to happen. I mentioned it on the Tuesday U.S. Open show. The manifesto is coming 1 week from today. Now is the time.
I don't think I even remember it now. It'll be like all new material.
Oh, it'll definitely come back to you, man.
Who wins the bracket? Who's your pick? There's a list of the guys that are in it right now.
Yeah,
Who wins the dang
I'm
thing?
looking right here. Mike McClelland.
Mike McClelland?
Yeah.
Dude, I think Keith Combs gets it done.
Oh, going with the bass. With the bass guy.
Fresh off the Sealy Big Bass win on Rayburn.
Oh, HFA. Holy guacamole. All right. That's it. We will be here on Thursday, same time. Everybody be safe. Make sure you check out the podcast. Tell your friends. Listen, learn. We'll see you on Thursday. Everybody stay tuned.